Every January, America pauses. Schools close. Offices shut down. Speeches are given. Quotes are shared. And a name echoes across the nation. Martin Luther King Jr. But this day was never inevitable. It was resisted, delayed, voted down, mocked, and for years, many Americans refused to recognize it at all. This is not just the story of a man. It is the story of how a nation decides whose memory deserves to be honored and whose message makes us uncomfortable. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in 1929 into a segregated America, a country that proclaimed liberty while enforcing separation by law. By the time King emerged as a leader in the 1950s, segregation was not just a social norm. It was a legal system reinforced by courts, police, and violence. King's power was not technological or military. It was moral. Through sermons, speeches, and televised protests, he harnessed the growing reach of mass media, turning peaceful resistance into an unavoidable national spectacle. Television cameras broadcast fire hoses in Birmingham. Newspapers printed images of children jailed for marching. Radio carried King's voice into homes that had never questioned segregation before. America could no longer look away. In August 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. stood before the Lincoln Memorial and delivered words that would define an era.
I have a dream today.
But what history often forgets is that King was already becoming controversial, even dangerous, to those in power. By the late 1960s, King was no longer focused solely on civil rights in the South. He spoke openly against the Vietnam War. He condemned capitalism's excesses. He called poverty a form of violence. To many politicians, King was no longer a symbol. He was a problem. When he was assassinated on April 4, 1968, the nation erupted in grief and rage. Cities burned, troops were deployed, and America faced a question it had long avoided. How would it remember Martin Luther King Jr.? Almost immediately, activists proposed a national holiday, but opposition was fierce. Some argued he was too divisive. Others claimed he hadn't served long enough. Some openly questioned his character, weaponizing FBI surveillance records to discredit his legacy. For years, the bill failed. Even as streets and schools were named after King, Congress refused to grant him a day alongside Washington and Lincoln. It wasn't until the late 1970s and early 1980s, after relentless public pressure, marches, and a massive petition campaign, that momentum finally shifted. Stevie Wonder released Happy Birthday, turning the holiday campaign into a cultural movement. Millions signed petitions. Public opinion began to overwhelm political resistance. In 1983, after 15 years of debate, Congress passed the bill. President Ronald Reagan signed it, reluctantly. The first official Martin Luther King Jr. Day was observed in 1986. But even then, the battle wasn't over. Several states refused to recognize it. Some renamed it. Others merged it with unrelated holidays. Arizona famously lost major events and economic opportunities for its refusal. It wasn't until the year 2000, more than 3 decades after King's death, that all 50 states officially recognized the holiday. Martin Luther King Jr. Day became the only federal holiday designated as a day of service, a deliberate choice reflecting King's belief that citizenship required action. Its impact goes beyond commemoration. The holiday reshaped how America teaches civil rights history. It influenced how protest movements frame nonviolence. It normalized the idea that moral leadership, not political office, can define national identity. But it also exposed contradictions. King is often remembered as safe, peaceful, and universally loved, stripped of his radical critiques, his economic justice demands, and his discomforting truths. The holiday both preserves and sanitizes his legacy. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is not about looking backward. It is about looking inward. King once said that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice, but only if people are willing to pull it. A holiday does not fulfill a dream. Laws do not complete a struggle. Memory alone does not create justice. Every January, the question returns, quietly, insistently. What will we do with the legacy we inherited? Because the true measure of Martin Luther King Jr. Day is not whether we remember his words, but whether we live them.